the fishing industry is probably the most dangerous profession that we know in this province, and we've lost a lot of people. But the we is drowning is the major cause of death in the fishing industry. And when you go into the water, you have very little time to figure out what your next move is and how you're going to save yourself, and people are going to know where you are. Firstly, you need to have a, a PFD or a life jacket on so that you could float. That gives you a little bit of time. But then you also need some kind of a device that will let people know where you are. So if you're have a personal locator beacon on your person, and that then will send a message that you're in trouble. So right away, resources will be directed to help find you. So if you have that, that's the best way. We have numerous examples of people, fishermen who have died in the last 5 or 6 years. Even we can name up almost a dozen people that some, if not all of them, would have been saved if they had had one of these beacons. So that's a beacon of hope that you have with you, that you're going to be found. Someone's going to come looking for you. People spend hours in the water and nobody knows that they're missing. We need for all of our harvesters to come home safely at the end of the voyage to their families. That's why the Safety Association, the Professional Fish Harvester Certification Board, the Fish Harvesters Resource Center, and the FFAW have put together this program to purchase personal locator beacons to put on every enterprise in this year, so that we can achieve our goal of bringing people home safely.
Well, the personal locator beacon is registered in your own name, so it has all your contact information, and I guess it calls it got information for people, for them to call other people to let them know that such and such a person fell overboard, and we have Coast Guard on the way, and just giving everybody peace of mind of who it is and where they're to, and hopefully they come back safe. Well, the EBURP is a bit different from the PLB, because when the EBURP is attached to your boat and your boat sinks and that automatically floats to the top, that's pretty well going to stay kind of with the boat, and which way the tide is going with the boat, it'll stay with the boat. But at least then, if you're a half a mile or a mile away from the boat and you have your PLB on, so they're mostly going to look for the livable people than they are worried about the boat. And if you're a mile from the boat and the EBURP goes off and you have your PLB on, they can go to that exact position of where you're to and hopefully rescue you. The two most important things when you fall overboard is, number one, have your PFD on, because that'll keep you afloat for hopefully for as long until somebody rescues you, and then the PLB will help the person when you activate it. It activates, and then within 3 minutes there's somebody on the ball getting ready to go rescue you. So as long as you have two of those on your person, you should be safe. Yeah, fishing is a dangerous occupation for anybody that's at it, and with those two devices such as the PFD and the PLB on your person at all times when you're fishing can create exceptional chances of survival, because most of the time when something happens, it's not on a fine day, it's usually on rough weather, and with those two things on, your chances of survival goes up tenfold. And they're great devices to have on your person at all times, and I think everybody in the fishery should have one.
Well, I'm a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, as you all know, and with the Coast Guard Auxiliary we do lots and lots of training with search and rescue patterns and distress signals and recognising distress signals and how to use them. But the biggest issue we have with emergencies is the fact that the sooner you can know about them, the sooner you can respond to them. Emergencies happen at a split moment most times is not in ideal conditions, and a lot of times you're not expecting it. Time is very limited, and the amount of time you got to respond to an emergency, and a lot of times you don't get the time to really respond. So timing is everything in an emergency. In today's world, like I said, timing is everything in an emergency. And our large boat, the 65-foot vessel that I have, we have what's called an EPIRB, is an emergency positioning indicating radio beacon, that when something happens to the vessel, this piece of equipment is activated automatically and not only lets the land know that there's an emergency on the vessel, it lets the land know that it is my vessel. It's distinct to my vessel, and it lets the land know where my vessel is approximately located. So, like I said before, timing is everything, and with a larger vessel, we have, this equipment aboard to be able to if we don't have time to get something done manually, I'll say, we know that there's a backup there automatically that lets people know we're in trouble. The EPIRB that I talked about is kind of is not real big, but it's big and bulky and actually got to be mounted on the vessel. With advancements in technology now, we have what's called personal locator beacons. They're a lot smaller, and instead of being having to be mounted directly to the vessel, they actually can be mounted right to the person. And these personal locator beacons are equipment that even a smaller boat can carry. Even as small as the smallest boat you can actually go out in. And these personal locator beacons act just the same as an EPIRB, whereas the person gets tossed in the water, an alarm goes off immediately, it identifies where the person is to, and it identifies that the emergency is taking place now. And like I said before, in that situation, time is everything, and the sooner you can get to someone in an emergency, the better that person will be. Just like an EPIRB, a personal locator beacon has to be registered to the person who owns it, so we'll actually know the person that is in trouble. There's a bit of training that's involved with it that people have to do, and not a lot of training, but it still has to be done to make sure it's a few things. It's in the right place on you, that it's actually going to work, and it's set to operate if something happens. The other aspect of it is when someone goes in the water and there's an emergency, there's a bit of training involved in the people that are actually out looking for you, because they have to know how to find exactly where you're to. So there's two aspects to it with training. Not really hard to do, not really hard to learn, but it actually has to be done. I've been involved in a few emergency situations in my lifetime, to be honest with you. And like I said, timing is everything. And thinking back on some of them, it could have been a different outcome if we had these personal locator beacons and the people that got in distress. I can think of a few incidents, and it's just too bad the technology's only getting here now.
Make no mistake, the fishing industry is a dangerous occupation. Over the last 10 years alone, we have lost 20 harvesters at sea. 5 of these harvesters were never recovered. So making personal locator beacons available to all harvesters will be a big step in preventing these tragedies in the future. For most of the incidents at sea over the past number of years, when the Coast Guard is notified that there's an incident, it's basically too late. PLBs would ensure that immediately when an incident happens, Coast Guard would be notified. And as someone from Coast Guard quoted, it would take the search at a search and rescue. What PLBs would do is ensure that immediately, that as there's a problem, that search and rescue are notified.
Newfoundland and Labrador, like a lot of other maritime nations, have had, a significant amount of tragedy at sea, whether that was people who were lost at sea or injured over the years while they were trying to make a living for themselves and their families. We just think of what a personal locator beacon can do for people who end up in a situation where they go overboard, and it really can make a difference from someone coming home safely to their family and not. There's been a number of cases where I think families would have their loved ones home with them if they had access to this technology and they were using it at the time. And now it's available, and we want to be, a part of making sure that people can avail of it in the future. We know that things could have been different in the past, but now we have the ability to make sure we're changing things for the future. The FFAW is very supportive of partnering with the Professional Fish Harvester Certification Board, the Safety Association, and the Fisheries Resource Centre in making sure that all harvesters in the province have access to a personal locator beacon that can ultimately save their lives.
What I'm here today for is to demonstrate the importance and the use of the PLBs, they're a personal locating beacon. The advantages of having them are great, and the reason being is that if something happens on board your vessel, for example, or wherever you're to, especially if you're in a remote area, you can send a signal to a satellite. The satellites are Coastpass and SARSAT. It takes about 50 seconds for it to receive the signal, and then every 50 seconds after that, it'll receive the signal. But the advantage of it is most of these PLBs now are installed with a GPS, which is the most important part of that message, is where you're to. You can have a broken leg, you can have a heart attack, but if they can't find you, it's no good. So this is the one of the advantages of those PLBs. They're smaller. They need to be attached to you in order for it to be your personal PLB. But one thing you got to do when you buy it or purchase it, you got to register it. And by registering, it means that you call the Canadian Registry and you put it in your name, your address, telephone number, email, and some people with contact. This is what's going to be required, because during the time, if it ever happens that you have to use the PLB, once that signal goes off, that also transmits this information. So the rescue center, which is in Trenton, Ontario, I believe, they're the ones that's going to receive this, and they know what they're looking for. So I'm just going to take it out now to show you what it looks like. This here itself, as you can see, it is small. It has to, like I said before, you have to attach it to you. There's no good at having this in the wheelhouse or down in your bunk or in the bag you bring aboard your clothes in. It's got to be attached to you, especially if you're out on deck. If you're out on deck, you're probably doing something, the weather's not so good, it could be rough. It's so easy to go overboard. We've had so many situations in this province and all over the world of people going overboard and not being found. This here is your best chance. So wear it. When I look at this now, I wonder how many lives could have been saved. Really, because people would have found you. As I said before, you don't actually die right away. I'm sure there's instances where they had. But a lot of times people are in the water, floating around, and nobody can find them. But if they had to have one of these here, I think it's remarkable to even think of how many lives, how many people would be alive if they had to have one of these with their flotation device on. As part of this course that we're doing today, it's my obligation to demonstrate to you and show you what these PLBs are and what they look like and basically the size of them. and you'll understand then why it's so important to have them, and how come, and look at it and say, well, you know, they are small, they're not cumbersome, they're easy, what you call easily to attach to yourself. This one here is which is the Get Found with Fast Find. It's got a battery, I guess, life of 24 hours of transmitting, with compared to the EPR, which is 48, but with 24 hours, they will find you. You don't have to worry, they will find you. Okay, to activate this PLB, you just flip up on this little red handle, and it's reason it's red too, because red is danger. So you flip up this little red handle, you pull up on it. Once you pull up on it, this will all come up, the antenna will come out and go vertical. It will then, a little button there on the side, you press on it, it will start sending the signal to the satellite. There. Also what you see, once this comes up here, you will see the little design here. It's your GPS. This is the thing that's sending out your position of where you're to. So you got to make sure that this is exposed. You don't cover it over. It's got to be exposed so that the satellite will pick up your signal and the ground receiving station will receive that signal. Accidents do happen, and they happen within a second or less than a second's notice. You could be walking along the deck of the boat, you're gone overboard. If the seas are rough, it's not easy to find you. If it's dark, it's not easy to find you. One thing to remember, people, the best way to carry this on your person is attach it to your personal flotation device. And that way, it's here, it's on the front, it's where you're going to be out of the water, because if your flotation device, if it's working properly, it's going to flip you over on your back. That's what they're for, so your face will keep out of the water. So this allows this to be out of the water. This allows your antenna to be exposed to the air, to the sky, because that's where we're going to be sending the signal. So I believe them. I believe they are a necessary piece of equipment. More than even necessary, it's as far as I'm concerned, they should be mandatory. Because the fact is, it saves time, it saves lives. Lives is the main thing here. And as far as I'm concerned, anybody who goes out on a vessel, who goes on open water, should be mandatory to carry these. I believe in them 100%. I have them. I'm going to wear it. I've always worn it. The thing is that I know that if I go overboard, I mean, I steam out across to my craft fleet in the morning. My crew's asleep. I'm there in the wheelhouse. There's times I go out around the deck just to check things. They're all down in the forecastle asleep. So when I go out, I can go overboard. If I go overboard, the boat has gone on. Whenever somebody decides to wake up, yeah, I guess they'll find out then that I'm gone. But this is why that you need to wear these. They are a lifesaver to a point where people will find you. But remember, you have to have your PFD on you at all times. Thank you.
there.